It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs, have some fun.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I'm Paul Dottino, he's Matt Citak, and we'll be here for the next hour to talk New York Giants football with you. And, of course, we will preview their game Sunday at 1 o'clock against the Dallas Cowboys. We are coming to you from the Giants Podcast studio. It is presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Our number is 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. You can always hit us up on Twitter at #GiantsChat, although, quite frankly, we seem to get a lot of our comments not only on the phone but on the YouTube channel, because there's a live chat to the right of that YouTube screen, and certainly you could always go there, and Pearson, our producer, will be able to pass those things along to us. If you don't catch the show live, the entire Giants Podcast Network is available on the archive at giants.com/podcasts, as well as podcast platforms everywhere. We start today's program with news that obviously Micah McFadden was placed on injured reserve because of a foot injury after yesterday's show was already concluded. So we don't know exactly what his status will be down the line. I know there is some optimism from his teammates that he may make it back toward the end of the season, but we don't have any detailed or concrete information about that. So in the meantime, they are one linebacker short. They did pick up, is it Xavier Gipson?
Yes.
From the Jets waiver wire. He is a receiver and a return man. He will be out there today. Brian Dable telling us that that is a player they've liked a lot. They're impressed with his talent. They think he's a good player, and they're going to see what he can do during the course of practice and figure out how they might try to use him. The only other item is that Andrew Thomas, for the first time since he began rehab from his Liz Frank in his foot, he is practicing in team drills on back-to-back days for the first time. So they are continuing to ramp him up, and Brian Dable said they will talk about it after practice today. I'm going to assume that since he continues to check these boxes slowly as he comes back, I'm going to say I'm rather pessimistic about his chances against Dallas. Brian Dable would not rule him out, so certainly I will not either. But I'm feeling really good about him next week against Kansas City.
Yeah, just with everything they've been doing, surrounding his situation, the last, almost a month now when he was activated off the physically unable to perform list, has shown that they are going to be extremely cautious with him because they would rather sit him for an extra, game or two, and then as soon as he comes back to the lineup, hopefully have him then for the rest of the season, then rush him back before he's fully ready, have him have a setback once he's out there on the field in a game, and then miss him for a good chunk of the season. So I think that is the right approach. I agree with you that I lean more towards him not playing because of that. But again, Coach Dable said before we came on air here, before practice started, that he was going to be on the practice field for the second consecutive day. This is the first time that he's practicing doing team drills for 2 consecutive days. So if he emerges from this practice, feels good, wakes up tomorrow and is still feeling good, I'd say there's certainly a chance he could play. But I tend to agree with you that I would think that they would lean a little bit more towards the cautious side when it comes to, their star franchise left tackle.
Well, last week they listed him as doubtful on Friday's injury report. Did they not?
He did. They did. So I would assume he will be, maybe questionable. But again, we probably won't know for sure. We definitely won't know for sure until 11:30 Sunday morning when inactives actually come out. Maybe we'll get a report before then, but nothing concrete until then. Some of the other things you touched on, in terms of Micah McFadden, there are only 2 things that we do know 100%. He will miss the next 4 games. That we know for sure. And we know that he did not break his leg because Coach Dable told the media that a couple days ago. when he got carted off the field, the worst thing you see is when they put the air cast on him, on anyone on the field. Typically, you think that means there's some sort of broken bone, which is obviously a very serious injury. Brian Dable told the media the other day that Micah was fortunate in that regard, in that there was no broken bone, at least. So that is why there is some, level of confidence that maybe he could return later in the season at some point. Again, we don't really know for sure. Knowing Coach Dable, we probably won't get many or any updates until he's actually, ready to rejoin the team at practice.
I think that's true.
And the final thing, Xavier Gipson. I've seen a lot of people since yesterday tweet like, oh, he just fumbled for the Jets and cost them that game. Why are we picking up? I just want to remind everyone, 2 years ago, there was a very similar situation with Gunnar Olszewski. He was with, I believe, the Steelers at the time. Mm-hmm. He had a fumble. The Steelers cut him. Giants signed him. And let's not forget, he ended up having a big impact in the special teams game, in the return game that year. He had the punt return touchdown, which was the first punt return touchdown in I don't even know how long for this team. So just because Xavier Gipson had one fumble last week, granted it was a costly one for the Jets, but one play doesn't wipe out all of the success he's had on special teams for the Jets the last couple of years. He's a very good returner. Punt return and kick return, he's had a lot of success. He has as a rookie, he had some experience playing offense as well. Not so much the last year in week one, but his rookie year, which was only 2023, he saw a decent amount of snaps on offense as well and made a little bit of an impact there. But clearly, as we saw this past week, kickoff returns are a big part of special teams now. The last couple of years, the league has veered away really from having many kickoff returns. Well, last week, and I'm sure you guys spoke about this earlier in the week, but last week, I think it was more than double the amount of kickoff returns in week one of the 2025 season compared to week one of 2024. So clearly, kickoff returns are, teams are emphasizing this part of the special teams unit. I mean, we saw the Eagles just go out and trade for Tank Bigsby, and the report is that they want to use him as their kick returner. So it doesn't surprise me that the Giants saw this opportunity to bring in a talented returner, bring him into the fold. I mean, Gunnar Olszewski is still here. Doesn't hurt to have two good kick returners back on the kick return coverage.
It does give them 7 receivers, though, as we speak this morning.
It does.
Which is really an overload. Now,
that is true.
Robinson and Slayton were limited yesterday. So
yes, and Wandell, coach did say, coach actually said he thinks both should be okay.
He did.
That is far from, concrete saying they will both be out there at Sunday.
So there may be a little bit of an insurance factor here, too.
Exactly.
Injury report out of Dallas. Let's just say this. There's one very significant one, which we've known about now for about 36 hours, and then one that's a little less significant, but nonetheless a big deal. Deron Bland still has his foot in a boot. He's going to miss potentially 3 to 4 weeks, is what I read.
That's the report, multiple weeks.
That's not good for him because, this year they wanted him to be their star slot guy who then could also move outside whenever they decided that they wanted to go with a nickel or a dime package. So that's a big deal. And then Malik Hooker, one of their 2 starting safeties, is dealing with a foot injury, and he's been limited to practice the last 2 days. That may or may not be significant. We know ourselves that guys who are limited sometimes are actually counting on playing. So that may not be a big deal.
Yeah, the fact that he was limited 2 days in a row, I would think would put him on the more optimistic side, Malik Hooker, that is. It's not like he was limited Wednesday and then did not practice Thursday. That would be a little bit more alarming.
Agreed.
So I would assume Malik Hooker will be out there, but it does not sound like Deron Bland has much of a chance of being out there. And that's pretty significant because last year in the 2 games against the Cowboys, week 1, Malik Neighbors saw a ton of Trayvon Diggs in coverage. The first game, sorry. Mm-hmm. The second meeting, Deron Bland was the primary defender covering him. I think it was like 60-something% of the snaps.
Over 66%.
Yeah, so yes. That is a big injury for a Cowboy secondary that Deron Bland just got a big extension from them right before the season started. he's obviously one of their best defenders, period. Not even just defensive backs.
Was he the 6th highest paid corner in the league?
Something
Is that
like
the number
that.
I saw?
Yeah.
I mean, big time.
Kind of crazy, but that's a
Well, he's
that's
a good
another.
player. He's a good
He's
player.
a good player.
And he has had a propensity to get interceptions.
No, for sure. It just, when they traded Micah Parsons because they didn't want to give him a deal and then immediately turn around and give that huge contract to
Yes.
DeRon Bland, that raised some eyebrows for me at least. But nonetheless, he's a talented player. Be a big loss for the Cowboy secondary if he is unable to play Sunday. And that would be a potential boost for the Giants wide receivers. 'Cause he's a very talented defensive back.
C.J. Goodwin, Reddy Stewart, Tri Bridges, these are their backup corners on their depth chart. However they want to deploy them, I'm not 100% sure what they will do if Bland, of course he's not able to go, we know that. But if Bland is not there, and then also Trevon Diggs, who played less than half the snaps last week. Remember now, he's coming off of knee surgery. They didn't expect him to be available till the 3rd or 4th week of the season. And he surprised everybody in Dallas by playing 40-something% of the snaps last weekend.
43.
Okay?
Yep.
That was a shock to most people in Dallas. They didn't expect that. He played zone. He didn't man up on anybody. Everything was off coverage because obviously, coming back from a knee, mobility is a bit of an issue. So, wow. If he's gimpy or he's not right and Bland's not there, that Dallas secondary is now very susceptible.
Well, you just actually touched on something that I was hoping we would bring up at some point, in that the Cowboys were the only team in the NFL last week to not have a single snap on defense where they used man coverage. They used zone on every single passing play of the Eagles.
They had to.
And now they're down DeRon Bland, who got hurt in practice Monday. He played 100% of the snaps against the Eagles, and then this injury kind of came out of nowhere. It's because he apparently happened during Monday's practice, and now it's going to sideline him for a few weeks. But I would expect, especially given now Bland's absence and Diggs still being at least somewhat limited, I would expect to see a ton of zone coverage again, because I don't think they want these backup corners playing one-on-one man coverage against the Giants pass catchers. Say what you want about the Giants pass catcher. Malik Neighbors obviously incredibly talented, but Darius Slayton can blow by most defenders in the NFL. So especially if you're going to backup defenders, and Wan'Dale Robinson, obviously we know how shifty he is working out of the slot, I would expect the Cowboys defense to deploy a ton of zone coverage again.
Now, I'm sure Dallas had 2 reasons to do that last week. One was exactly what you said. The other one is that Jalen Hurts runs RPOs. And when the opposing quarterback is a threat to run, he's going to use a lot of the RPOs. He's going to lose a lot of ability to take the ball as a ball carrier. Well, you're going to play less man-to-man because that allows that guy to take off.
Yeah, but Hurts gashed him. Hurts had a great game rushing.
Understood, but the philosophy going in against the running quarterback is to play more zone. That's the usual MO. Russell Wilson, who I, by the way, thought actually showed a lot more mobility last week than I expected him to. He had to run for his life. He didn't have a choice. It was survival mode. But he did a good job of only allowing, I think, 8 quarterback hits and 2 sacks on a day when he was under constant duress. I thought Russell did a really good job in terms of being able to get away and move around. So I don't know what Dallas thinks about that tape, but you would go into a game against him thinking he will not be quite as much of a threat to run as Jalen Hurts would be.
Of course, Jalen Hurts obviously is, one of the top dual threat quarterbacks in the entire league. Russell Wilson, while I agree with you, he actually looked a lot more mobile and, kind of athletic back there than I think I was even expecting last week. He's not on Jalen Hurts' level as an athlete. I don't think anyone would argue that.
Not at 36.
No, certainly not at 36. But I will say, again, Russell Wilson, I think, obviously it was not a perfect game from him overall, but as a runner, I thought he looked good in that aspect. And not only that, the Giants were designing runs for him. He was one of the leaders among quarterbacks in designed runs last week. That's like what you said is completely right about him scrambling, and I think he did do a good job with that and turning some runs from scrambling away from pressure. But they were also designing some runs for him because they clearly saw the same athleticism that, we saw on Sunday. They've been seeing it in practice.
And they also saw that he was a sitting duck if he just sat back there too.
Yeah, so honestly, I would think, the coaching staff is obviously going to look at the tape from the Cowboys season opener last week, see what the Eagles did successfully on offense. I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Wilson has at least a decent amount of design runs. Again, if the Cowboys are going to play zone coverage like that and give him some spots on the field to run, I think he's going to do it again.
Now, I'll just get this out of the way, and then we'll go to your phone calls at 201-939-4513. For me, a matchup that the Giants have to be very, very concerned about is defensive tackle Kenny Clark, who's going to probably, in all likelihood, play right on the nose opposite center John Michael Schmitz. Kenny Clark is a 3-time Pro Bowl player. He has a motor. He is extremely powerful. And quite frankly, is a major league run stuffer. Now, throughout his career, he has had periodic success rushing the quarterback as well. But he's more known for his ability to be extremely stout and physical and a guy who really sets the tempo in the trenches. I'm going to get this out of the way right now, folks. The Giants' plans for Kenny Clark are going to be paramount. Because if they cannot find a way to prevent him from dominating the line of scrimmage and controlling the line of scrimmage, it's going to be another long, long day. It's just that simple, Matt. If they can't run the ball, which means containing him, and they can't keep him out of the face of Russell Wilson, I don't know how the Giants expect to effectively score points. I simply don't. And that's twofold. It's because they didn't do a good job at the two things they had to do last weekend, and because Kenny Clark, while he flies under the radar to most people, anybody in the National Football League knows he is one of the best nose tackles in the game.
Yeah, when the news of the Micah Parsons trade came out, everyone obviously just focused on the Micah going to Green Bay part, but it was completely overlooked that the Cowboys, obviously Kenny Clark is not Micah Parsons. They're completely different type of defenders, but Kenny Clark is a really, really good defensive lineman. I mean, he's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's a veteran that's been doing this at a high level for a long time, and I feel like that part of the trade just got completely overlooked. Obviously, not in the Cowboys' eyes.
Did you watch the game last week?
Yeah.
How do he look to you?
He looked very good.
Yeah, he did.
It's exactly what I was expecting. Because again, we know that he is a very good defensive tackle. Again, he's not Micah Parsons, but he does. Jerry Jones said after the trade, our run defense got better, something along those lines. Which again, taking Micah Parsons out of any defense is, that's a hit to the unit overall. But
sure,
Jerry Jones was not completely wrong. Where Kenny Clark is very good against the run, and he's sneaky good as a pass rusher as well. So I agree with you, especially because last week the Giants, the interior offensive line is where the Commanders got a lot of the pressure last week against Russell Wilson. And as we know, if you can blow up the interior part of the line, that is the most detrimental to an opposing offense. That's why Dexter Lawrence wreaks havoc on so many teams' opposing offenses. It's because of that. So I'm with you. Manning down or containing him, not letting him, force Russell Wilson to scramble outside every other passing play has got to be one of the top priorities for the offensive line, if not the number one.
That's it. Kenny Clark can damage you both ways. He can ruin your quarterback, and he can also prevent you from getting a running game going. And those are two things the Giants cannot afford. It's just that simple, folks. I put a big exclamation point and a period right there at the end of that comment. Because if that does not happen, the dominoes start to fall off the table. Everything else starts to go bad. They've got to make that happen. And if it means help from Greg Van Roten, if it means help from John Runyon, if it means Bellinger's got to play more fullback, whatever it means.
Keep the running back in to block.
Just make sure that Kenny Clark does not wreck the game. 201-939-4513. Kevin in Philadelphia, You are on line 1 on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, it's so good to talk to you guys.
Hi.
Hey, Kevin.
So Paul, you've been around Giants football a long time, and I got to tell you, I'm just having these recurring thoughts, which are not good ones, about the way life was in the 1970s, where every year was rebuilding, attempting to do things to improve the team. And I'm seeing this sort of same recycling now going on and on. And the point you were just making about Kenny Clark, right? Spot on. But in my mind, I'm saying to myself, why is it year after year after year that we, unlike some other teams, in fact, the one that plays locally here in Philadelphia, can't seem to put an offensive line together? I'm not sure why that's become such a daunting task over the years to assemble that. It seems like we're always backpedaling and talking about the weaknesses in our offensive line as opposed to, hey, we have a very strong offensive line. We can dominate a running game, etc. I mean, truthfully, we haven't seen the likes of that since the, George Young, Ernie Accorsi type era, as I like.
Well, Coughlin's teams won 2 Super Bowls, and certainly the first Coughlin Super Bowl was a dominant line.
Right. I know, no argument with that, but I view that as sort of a carryover from a GM standpoint, anyway, from the Accorsi years. But be that as it may. Why don't you think we're able to accomplish things like that? And now we just find ourselves, I think, looking uphill again this season like we have the past 2.
Kevin, the only thing I can say to you it's not for lack of trying, because if you look over the last, let's just say decade, let's be fair, last decade, there have been dozens of offensive linemen who have come through these doors. They have spent some high draft choices on guys, and you could cite them and call them up if you like, Matt. They've done that. They've signed a bunch of free agents. They've had guys get hurt. They've had guys retire on them. They've had guys not play nearly up to the level that they were supposed to play when they came here. They've had other guys who wound up getting sour with their attitude, and it was like, okay, you don't want to be here, you don't want to play here, you don't want to do what you're supposed to do, then get out. You've had that too. And then the other thing is, quite frankly, they've also had quite a few offensive line coaches since Pat Flaherty. And that's also part of it too. I mean, there are a myriad of reasons. But the one thing that I always insist to people who get on the franchise for their lack of finding those guys is that it's not for lack of trying, because they have paraded in a slew of linemen in here for the last decade. They've tried. And unfortunately, in most cases, they've come up short.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add and just say overall about the offensive line is, look, I know last week it was not a great performance by the offensive line. As we said before, Russell Wilson was scrambling almost every drop back. The run game could not get going at all. I just want to point towards last year, week 1 last year, where it was a similar performance by the whole entire team, not just the offensive line. The whole team really, really struggled against that.
The Vikings
in the season opener. And it was a bad overall performance,
brutal,
especially with the guys up front. The Vikings had even more pressure against the Giants in that game than the Commanders did on Sunday.
12 quarterback hits, I think, right?
I believe so. Now, fast forward to the next week, and then weeks 2 through 6, with the same 5 guys that were in there week 1, the line got a lot better. And that was what gave the front office and the coaching staff this confidence in the unit going into this year that if we bring everyone back and everyone gets healthy, we'll have a solid offensive line. So I know last week was bad. I'm not trying to sugarcoat that by any means. All I'm saying is it was one game against a very talented defensive play caller in Dan Quinn and a, I think, underrated defensive front of the Commanders. Let's just give the line a little bit of time to get going before, we fully start ringing the alarm bells. I'm not guaranteeing it's, going to get significantly better, but it did last year. From weeks 2 through 6 before Andrew Thomas got hurt, the line got significantly better. They were a, we've spoken about this so many times. They were a middle of the pack line, which that's all we need them to be. We don't need a top 5 offensive line for this team this year to have success. We need them to be just a solid offensive line, functional, as we always say. So let's just, before we completely give up, let's just give the group a little bit more time, especially wait until Andrew Thomas comes back, because obviously that will also be just a big boost to that unit.
I think just remember this one thing. If they can't contain a Kenny Clark, what do you think Chris Jones is going to be looking at when he watches the tape the following week? So, it's time. I know it's week 2, and you don't want to, you're right, you don't want to panic, but my goodness, if that line can't feel a sense of urgency this week and get angry about what they put on tape, then I'm going to be really puzzled, because there's no time like the present if you're going to give Russell Wilson a chance to survive.
Oh, 100%. The urgency definitely needs to be up. We need to see an improvement starting this week.
Got to be.
My point was just one game, don't completely, we always say the Monday after week 1 is the biggest overreactions around the NFL.
Yeah, except this schedule won't let you breathe. That's the problem.
That's why they need to get going. That's why they need to get going immediately, starting this week. Because as you said, next week against Chris Jones and the Chiefs and Spags, that's not going to get any easier.
Oh no. Anyway, Kevin, anything else?
No, and I was going to just well said. And I'm not ringing any alarm bells, believe me, but I just couldn't help but look over time, and I think Paul, you hit a lot of the reasons why, and I do agree that they've been trying. I guess I'm still perplexed as to why all the trying hasn't maybe produced a little bit more fruit.
Yeah.
But be that as it may. My final comment is I couldn't help, I'm assuming you guys may have checked in on the Washington-Green Bay game last night. And isn't it funny how when Washington played a true team that has some salt about them, that all of a sudden all the bravado that you were hearing out of the Redskin country tended to die down a little bit. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Appreciate the phone call. Remember what the old mantra is: you're never as good as you've looked, and you're never as bad as you've looked. All right? I think the Commanders are somewhere in the middle. They're certainly not as confident, or should not be, as the 12-win team that they put on the field last year. But I'm sure that they also will tell you that they probably don't feel like last night's game, when they pretty much got handled by Green Bay, is necessarily what they are this year either.
Yeah, all I'll say is Green Bay looks like an absolute juggernaut this year. I think...
Well, that trade did a lot for them.
For sure. They had a very, very talented and up-and-coming team even before that trade, but then you add Micah Parsons to that defense. If I had to choose one team out of the NFC to make the Super Bowl right now, even before last night, I would have said this, it's the Green Bay Packers. And I think the Commanders just, faced a juggernaut last night and one of the true contenders in the NFL. So obviously, it's going to make them look a little worse.
We go to line 2, and Big Ed in Maryland joins us once again on the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Big Paulie.
How you doing, Big Ed?
Think of a big guy, Mr. Man, please tell me your name again.
My last name is Citak. I feel like you were gearing up to try to say it, and no one pronounces it correctly.
You could just call him Matt. It's okay.
Or Matt.
It's fine.
My first name
Big
is
Matt.
Matt.
Thank you. That's what I needed. Big Matt. All right, Paulie, what do we got, man? What do we have? Who's hurt? Is Thomas playing?
We're a tad pessimistic on that, but I don't think that they're going to make any declarations about him today. I suspect he'll probably be a game-time decision.
Okay. Did he practice yesterday?
He did practice some yesterday with team drills, team snaps, and was expected to do that again today. In fact, they're out there right now while we're doing the show.
And Coach did say, that Andrew will do more today than he did yesterday, and this is the first time he's practicing in team drills in back-to-back days. So whether or not he plays Sunday, this is certainly a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's good. Now let's get to the real brass tacks of this situation. Paulie, we need to have an understanding. What is it going to take for us to win this game? Where are we at with that program? What's been the strategy this week?
Look, Big Ed, this is not a secret. It's football 101, but it's never been more apparent after what the Giants put on tape in Washington. They must, absolutely must do a better job on both sides of the trenches. We've talked about Kenny Clark here now for the last how many minutes? That goes without saying. That is the top priority. They must not let him wreck this game. They need to get the run going, get the play action going, and give Russell Wilson a chance to survey the field. That has to be the first, second, and third priority for this team if they're going to have a chance. On the other side of the ball, Dexter Lawrence was not himself last week. Okay? He didn't play during the preseason. Obviously, they were trying to ramp him up. They understood coming off the elbow injury. He wasn't just going to walk on the field and miraculously be Dexter Lawrence again. But if you listen to the show at all in the last 2 weeks, I tried to tell everybody it's going to take him time to get into the rhythm, and it's going to take time for the rest of the defense to mesh with him. I told everybody that. Screamed it at the top of my lungs. Anybody who's in a panic over this was not listening because I warned you of this. But they've got to still do a better job of clogging holes and at least slowing down the run game, because you don't want Dak Prescott, much like you want Wilson to have a balanced attack, you don't want Prescott to have a balanced attack. What is the MO? The Giants have lost 8 games in a row to the Dallas Cowboys. They have lost 15 of the last 16 meetings against this team. And you know how it usually happens? It usually happens because Dallas gets out to a lead, and then they basically bludgeon the Giants to death with their run game over the course of the second halves. That's the way it happens. We've seen this movie 1,000 times. You can't let that happen.
That's why for me, the biggest thing.
Understand this, fellas. Hold up, Mr. Matt. I'm gonna get this right here. We gonna have this.
It's all you, Big Ed.
Dallas has been beating us with that passing game because we have not been able to defend the pass game well. That's their biggest start. Okay, for us, we got to do what Eli did when he got Victor Cruz, and we started on a Sunday night game. Throw the bomb. We did not throw no bombs last week. I was so
That's because
disappointed.
Russell Wilson didn't have time.
Yeah.
We ain't had no time.
No time.
We ain't had no time.
Wilson threw one pass of over 20 yards, and it was incomplete.
Right. Exactly. We have to threaten them. If we don't threaten Dallas to make them back up, they're going to beat the crap out of us like they've been doing. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, that rookie we got, he got to show up, baby. He got to show up.
Abdul Carter had a good game.
I would argue that he did show up last week.
Big Ed, Abdul Carter played well in limited action. They were not going to just throw him into the deep end of the pool in week 1. They kind of ramped him up too, and he played well in the snaps he had.
Okay. I'm not going to say he didn't, but I'm going to tell you this. He's going to have to act like Michael Parsons, boy. I'm trying to tell you, he has to be an absolute animal, a wrecking machine to Dak's ways of doing things. You got to get him off the ball, man, and that's the other biggest thing too. We got to beat them off the ball, offensively particularly. We have got to get an edge on them, and the only way I see that being is you got to give them some type of misdirection. Let them know, Paulie. They need some type of misdirection with the running game because we got good running backs. But what can we do with them if we can't let them get out? If we got to throw out routes, short routes, just for them to go because the game speed is so fast. This season, for whatever reason, the game speed is amazing. You have to listen to this, Paulie. I know you can appreciate this, and I'm going to go after this. I'll say this, right? Your running game has to be just as fast, if not faster, than your passing game. Isn't that crazy? Never thought that we would see football this way. Thanks, guys. I hope we big win on Sunday because we definitely need it.
Talk to you next week, Big Ed. Thank you.
Thank you, Big Ed. Yeah, I mean, defensively, I think the most important thing, and this is tough going up against Dak Prescott, you got to at least try to make him feel uncomfortable back there. I mean, Dak Prescott is one of the best quick decision-making quarterbacks in the entire NFL. In 15 career games against the Giants, do you know how many times he's been sacked?
I don't know the sack number. I just know he's 13-2 as a starter against the Giants.
In those 15 games, he has been sacked a total of 15 times. that is just, it's not good enough. And that's why, a big reason why that record that you just said, it's because he gets time back there to do whatever he wants. And, he does get the ball out quickly. So the pass rush, we spoke a good amount leading into the season about, Brian Burns and the quick pressures under 2.5 seconds. Well, Burns, Kayvon, Abdul, they're going to need those quick pressures because Dak Prescott gets the ball out so quickly. And when you have the playmakers that the Cowboys have, that is a tough matchup for any opposing defense when you have to go up against CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, Kavontae Turpin being used as a gadget player / third receiver. Those are all very, very tough guys to match up against, all in their own respective ways. So this pass rush that we talked about for so long leading into the season and who looked okay last week. It wasn't, the best pass rushing game. It wasn't awful, but that also, a big part of it was going up against Jaden Daniels. That dual threat right there makes it tough for any defense to really apply a ton of pressure against a quarterback like that. That will easily just tuck the ball and run immediately as soon as he feels even the slightest sense of pressure. So, Big Ed spoke about Abdul. Again, Abdul played pretty well last week. He led the team in pressures. I know, you may not like that stat, but he did lead the group despite playing
played well.
Despite playing fewer snaps than Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. I think we might see him a little bit more this week. I would hope. He also made an impact in the special teams. I mean,
big time.
He blocked a punt or deflected it at least and led to a 30-yard punt.
Nearly got two others.
Exactly. So the Giants are going to have to do the best that they can to get pressure quickly on Dak Prescott. This isn't the same Cowboys offensive line of a few years ago. It's good, but it's not that, top 3 in the NFL unit that it once was.
They got 3 number 1 picks on that line, though.
They do.
I mean, but it's not exactly tissue paper yet.
No, it's not. But it's also not the same line of a few years ago that was one of the most elite units in the league. So the pass rush will have an opportunity to get after Dak. They got to make him feel uncomfortable up back there because if they give him time, he's going to just pick apart the defense.
Yeah, I still think you have to make sure that you stop that Cowboys running game because if they're balanced, it makes that job that you just talked about 10 times easier.
100%. I mean, every single week, given how the Giants' run defense has played the last couple of years, every single week, no matter who they're playing, stopping the run has got to be a priority.
I'd be fine if Prescott had to throw the ball 45 times. That'd be good.
Javonte Williams doesn't quite scare me like Dak Prescott having time to throw to CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Jake Ferguson.
I understand that, but if they have holes, then Javonte Williams should scare you. Because if they're blowing holes through that line, the Giants gave up. I know there were garbage time yards, and there was a big 49-yard run in there, but it was still 220.
No, the run defense was not nearly good enough last week, for sure. But again, Jaden Daniels being under center played a big part in that. When you have a quarterback that
I understand
can easily run like he does and successfully, that throws a wrench into your run defense. It makes it even tougher. Dak is I think more athletic than he gets credit for, but he's certainly nowhere near the level of Jaden Daniels in terms of running the ball.
Pearson, what do we have on the Giants huddle?
Today we had the Paulson Adebo interview go up. John also spoke with Darius Muasau for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Got Brian Broaddus on that as well, and Bob Papa sits down with Brian Dable like he does every week. So
all that
in one huddle. Yep.
And we also have this week's Coach Dable show is now up on Giants.com and the Giants YouTube channel.
Okay.
And while this isn't a game preview, we also have the new episode of the Eli Manning show, where Eli and Sean met with celebrity chef
Alex Gornacelli.
There you go, because I was going to
100%
mispronounce that last name.
What did you cook, Pearson? Well, what did you guys cook?
They cooked pizzas.
Did you try any?
Ooh.
I did. It was pretty good.
Ooh. Nice.
I think Sean might have won.
Sean won?
No, that's
was it just Sean versus
Eli?
Wait.
It was just Sean versus Eli.
that makes more sense.
Yeah, but nonetheless, the whole Eli Manning show is kind of like the WWE. I mean, Sean's not allowed to win. It's the Eli Manning show. O'Hara cannot win. He's not allowed.
Well, you have to watch to find out, I guess.
All right, check it out, folks. All those goodies are on Giants.com. And don't forget, You can go to all of your favorite podcast platforms to get many of the Giants programs that we throw up on the internet. Finally, the Giants Foundation will host a 5K race and a kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October 26th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative t-shirt after the race. Stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. And finally, let's see here. Giants season ticket memberships are available still for the 2025 season. We haven't had a home game yet.
Next
So
week.
you could still get your season tickets. The Kansas City Chiefs are coming in a week from this weekend. And remember, you can get exclusive member access and benefits all year round. Go to giants.com/tickets. The Giants TV streaming app is free. You can get it on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. See all kinds of goodies and fun stuff that the players and the coaches do during the course of the week. And also, finally, one other item here. Join us at the Ultimate New York Giants Women's Tailgate presented by Joe Malone. The ticketed event will take place on Sunday, September 28th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in Lot G, ahead of the Giants' Week 4 home game against the L.A. Chargers. That would be Justin Herbert and company. Attendees will have the opportunity to connect with the Giants team reporter as well as one of our tailgate hosts, Madeline Burke, and Giants legends, and enjoy custom merchandise as well as exclusive Kendra Scott activations, tailgate games, giveaways, photo ops, and a live DJ with entertainment. Tailgate food and one drink ticket are included with the purchase, and the tailgate is for people 21 and older. That takes care of our business, so now we can go back to the phones as you guys discuss the Giants and the Cowboys. We will go to Nate in Pennsylvania. You're next on the show. Hello.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Matt.
What's going on?
Both this afternoon.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
Matt, I'm glad you're on because I saw you wrote the article on the snap counts on Giants.com. So I have two questions relative to that article for you.
Yep.
The first, I know we've talked a lot about Dexter not necessarily being himself, not a lot of reps this offseason, and obviously had a down game in week 1. But I'm curious if in the course of your snap count research you found out how many times of those 49 snaps that Dexter was double-teamed. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, also relative to the snap counts, we had Carter down for 38 snaps on defense and 5 on specials. Of those 38 on defense, do you happen to know how many of them were at off-ball linebacker or on the defensive line in some configurations? So that's question 2. And my final question, I'll take it off the air. Given the lack of production from the defensive line in week 1, and I know, Paul, you said not to get upset or overly excited about it. 220 yards is a tough one for any Giants fan to swallow on the ground. But even when you look at individual statistics, and I added up Dex, Roy Robertson, Harris, Nacho, Garcia, DJ, and Golston, combined, they got credited for 1 solo tackle, 6 assists, and only 1 hurry.
Not good enough.
My question to you is there a chance that Darius Alexander potentially gets a jersey this week?
All right, I'll let Matt go through the numbers you asked about in reference to your other questions. Number 1, Darius Alexander did not play and may not play this week. We don't know. Andre Patterson, the defensive line coach, addressed that today with the media because they were all over the fact that Alexander was not in the game last week. And he said, hey, you got to remember something. He is still raw. And when Danielle Hunter, who Dre coached with the Minnesota Vikings, came into the league, he did not play in his first 5 games. And look what he turned into. Coach Patterson said everybody in the building knows that Alexander has a high level of talent and is going to be a terrific player. But he is not quite there yet. They are getting him there. He said he's getting closer, and he would not put a timetable on when we will actually see him in a game. But he's making the jump from Toledo. Please, no disrespect to the Mid-American Conference, but that's not exactly the Big Ten. So he's making a jump, okay? It's a big, big jump. The other item about Dexter Lawrence, Dre also said they already overextended Dexter in the first game. They didn't expect to play him as many snaps as he played. He was already overextended. And he said we had to get him out of there because we didn't want to make it even worse because they got to ramp him up. He said what people don't understand about these players is that they've got to find their rhythm again. And especially for defensive tackles, Coach Patterson said you have to understand the tempo of the play and when you're making your move. And you get rusty if you haven't been in games. And so he's like, just be patient. They gotta ramp up Dexter too. This is something I didn't get into those details of it, but I warned you guys about this. So I'm not surprised. Now, what do you have?
Here are the numbers. I did find all these numbers that you asked for while doing my research. So since we're talking about Dexter, we'll start with him. He was double teamed on 69.2% of his pass rushes, which that number might sound high, and that's because it very much is. Last year, throughout the whole season, he was double teamed 63.8%, which was by far the most in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was, just over 5% more than his league leading number last year. So he was getting double teamed almost every single play he was out there rushing the passer. I would expect that to continue until the edge rushers start dominating their
Brian
one-on-one
Burns had a
matchup.
good game, though.
Brian Burns did. He had the 2 sacks. Yeah. No, they were not bad by any means. Obviously,
they got to do better.
The top
Burns
3 guys
well.
combined for the 3 sacks. Burns had 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Abdul and Kayvon split the other. All 3 of those guys had multiple pressures. So they were not bad. But when those guys need to start truly dominating their one-on-one matchups, and that's going to lead to opposing offensive lines second guessing whether or not they're going to double team Dexter Lawrence every play.
See, I go the other way. You got to stop the run first, and then those guys on the edge will pick it up. I go in. I'm
just saying in terms of lowering Dexter Lawrence's double team.
Okay. I got you. I got you. Fine. I understand. Go ahead.
So that's the Dexter Lawrence part. In terms of Abdul, so this is according to Pro Football Focus. They keep track of where players line up for all of their snaps. 38 snaps. 33 were on the defensive line, 5 were in the box, and it says 28 of those snaps were lined up outside of the Commander's offensive tackle. 4 of them had him lined up right over the offensive tackle. Only one of them, one snap on defense, he was lined up, quote unquote, as a defensive tackle on the interior.
All right. Thank you so much for your phone call.
Thank you, Nate.
Anything else?
Not in
That's it. That was all. Okay, very good.
Yeah, just answering his questions.
I forgot if there was another level to his question.
I think those are the 2.
That was it.
Snap. Specific questions. Would it surprise you this weekend, given the injury to Micah McFadden? I'm not saying every play or even a lot of plays, but would it surprise you if some plays Abdul is lined up at off-ball linebacker where he played to begin his Penn State career?
He will get more snaps than he got last week. I'm very confident of that. But I don't necessarily think they'll be in a traditional spot where Micah McFadden would be. I think he will be in different locations.
Oh, I think he's going to kind of line up in a variety of spots.
But I do expect more action for him.
I do. I think, obviously, I don't know. I think he might get at least some snaps playing off-ball linebacker. I think just because, again, and Shane Bowen kind of said this when he was asked about that exact question yesterday, you want to get your best players out there as much as possible. And obviously Abdul Carter has a very special skill set and he's very versatile. So if putting him out, at linebacker, even if it's just for a handful of snaps, it gives you another additional handful of snaps of having all your best defensive players on the field out there together. So I wouldn't be surprised even if it's just a couple of plays, I wouldn't be shocked to see it.
We might even see him, as we saw a little bit during training camp. It's not entirely out of the question. We might see him as the 3 technique, too, on some snaps.
Yeah.
We go to line 3. DJ in Virginia. You're next on BBKL. Hello.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Paul.
How are you?
How's it going?
All right. So I kind of have to disagree with you, Matt. Well, not disagree with you, but I've kind of given up on this O-line. And let me kind of explain to you why that is. In my opinion, of course, I feel like the team is kind of being built the wrong way. And I know kind of being a negative Nancy because a lot of stuff I have to say is negative, but and I don't want to beat a dead horse. But in order to, like, be competitive, doesn't it start within your division? Like, you have to be able to compete inside your division. And most of the teams in our division, they play tough. You know what I mean? They have big defensive tackles. It's all about defense. And it seems like we're not building it in that mold. It's like we bring in guys who are, a little bit on the salt side and are like pass blockers, and it seems like we want to spread people out and, throw the ball downfield. But the problem is we can't block anybody to hold up long enough to throw the ball. You know what I mean? And part of the thing is, like, when you get down to the goal line, it's harder because the field gets condensed. It's harder for you to move anybody if you don't have that power. You know what I mean?
It's true.
And I know Paul talks about how, you don't have to have all box cars, and I understand that. But you're going to have to move somebody off the line of scrimmage, you know what I mean, in order for you to get that 1 yard you might need, you know what I mean?
The Giants have two of their more powerful, larger framed offensive linemen out of the lineup right now. Joshua Zudu is one of those guys, and he's on injury reserve with expectation to return after the first 4 games. He is one such guy you could look to as an option. And obviously Evan Neal, who was scratched last week. He is another stronger, bigger framed, more powerful offensive lineman who is potentially a guy that you might want to insert into the lineup if you're the coaching staff. I suppose I don't think of Aaron Stinney in that mold, to be frank with you, but that's another guy who's had some success in this league. If you wanted to change things up, you certainly have him at your disposal. I don't know exactly what the coaching staff is thinking right now, other than Carmen Bracillo telling us this morning that you don't panic after 1 game. And Matt was correct last year. Horrific performance by the entire team against the Vikings. And then the following week, we saw tremendous improvement and a great turnaround by everybody on the team. And they started to play like a very competitive club, and they were 2-3. They beat, Arizona and Seattle, right?
Cleveland.
Cleveland and Seattle. Cleveland in Cleveland,
yeah.
and Seattle in Seattle.
Yep.
2 road games. So let's not think about juggling in the lineup yet, but there are some people in the building that you could potentially turn to if you wanted to make a change.
Look, DJ, I get where you were coming from. Obviously, the offensive line, at least in terms of the offense, is got to be the unit going into week 2 that's the most, show me what you can do unit going into this game. No doubt about it.
Yep.
But again, and I mentioned this earlier, I feel like people are just completely, underestimating or overlooking how good of a defensive front the Commanders have. Last night, the Giants last week gave up 24 pressures to the Commanders. Last night against the Packers, who I think most people would say have a pretty good offensive line, the Commanders got 21 pressures, only 3 fewer. Same amount of sacks, more hurries than the Giants gave up. So it's not like it was just the Giants offensive line that gave up a lot of pressure to this Commanders defensive front. It was the Packers, who obviously have Super Bowl aspirations, giving up almost just as much pressure as the Giants did last week.
Dan Quinn has always been a very good defensive-oriented coach who knows how to stunt, run gains, get guys off balance, if you will, to get pressure on the quarterback. I still don't think Washington has a very strong front. I'm sorry, I don't. I think it's more Dan Quinn.
Yeah, I mean, he's just one of the best defensive play callers, I think, in the entire NFL.
Yeah,
I
agree with that.
He played a big role in the Cowboys having so much success on defense for the years that he was the coordinator there.
Yep.
Right, I understand. And my last point, even though, it's kind of like, I understand Dable is an offensive guy and Kafka, but part of being a good play caller is knowing when to call the plays, if I'm not mistaken. It seems like, and I'm looking at the Green Bay game with Washington, and I'm looking at LaFleur set him up when he gets on the goal line. He put heavy personnel. It looked like a run, and I know they have to respect the running back because it's Josh Jacobs, but it's like he set it up so that they can, have it where they could just set him up, and then they hit him inside for the slam.
Well, here's what I will say about that. The failures for the Giants inside the 10-yard line last week were inexcusable, okay? The execution was horrific all around. But in terms of you're asking them to get more creative, well, they tried to get creative when they put Marcus Bowe in as the extra tight end, and on first down, they tried to throw a pass to him in the end zone. I personally, myself, you know me, I'll punch you in the nose. I would much rather just absolutely smash mouth the ball across the goal line and not go into any trickery. But you're asking them to be more creative. They tried to get creative on that play, and it didn't work.
And it didn't help that pretty much the entire game, the Giants failed to just establish the run at all. I mean, the running backs combined for 30 yards on 15 carries. 2.0 yards per carry is not going to get it done against any opponent, especially one as good as the Commanders coming off a trip to the NFC Championship. So when you can't establish the run, it makes the opposing team not respect the run.
Yeah, it's brutal.
That's why they were somewhat prepared for that trick play, because they had a feeling, obviously, that the Giants weren't going to try to just punch it in.
I think if you want them to try to be more creative, thank you for the call. If you want them to try and be more creative, well, maybe one of the ways to do that would be take one of those offensive linemen, one of the jumbo linemen, one of the guys who's not starting as the first five, maybe line up one of those guys as a fullback. I mean, it's been done before in this league. You want to get creative? That would be my suggestion, to be creative. When you're not blocking it very well for anything, especially on the interior of the line, and you get down into close quarters like that, well, get the biggest, beefiest boxcar frames that you've got. And if it means sticking an extra offensive lineman in as a fullback, maybe that's the way. You literally have to take a bulldozer and just shove inch by inch until you get across the goal line. Maybe that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, I do not disagree.
I mean, it's just you want me to be creative. I'm trying to be creative for you.
All I know is they obviously can't run plays like that all the time when they're trying to run. I know you're talking about just by the goal line, right, but it's not going to make a difference unless they can find success running the ball outside of just goal line opportunities. Because the Cowboys, any team they're playing, again, they're just not going to respect the run if the Giants can't establish the run whatsoever. And that means the play action game is basically taken out of the playbook because they're not going to respect the play action because they know that you're just going to throw it. So it all starts with establishing the run, getting push. The guys up front need to just get more of a push. They need to improve.
Get angry.
Get
angry and play angry.
Now, there is one thing I just want to quickly touch on because I've been thinking about it all week, waiting to come on the show to talk about it today. Last week, on this last Friday when we spoke, we had a little bit of a conversation about Cam Scadaboo.
Yeah.
And I said, rookie week one, I wouldn't want to just throw him out there, in key situations.
Mm-hmm.
I think he showed me enough. I know the final box score might not have looked like the prettiest, but I think he showed me enough in one game where I'm already backtracking on that statement. I mean, the biggest thing, as I said last week, the biggest thing with rookie running backs is you get a little worried about them in pass protection. And he made it abundantly clear on his very first NFL snap. Pass protection is not something he's going to have to worry about when it comes to Cam Scadaboo. He not only looks forward to it, but he willingly takes on these blockers. I mean, he threw that massive hit on the commander safety. Obviously, there was then the very next play where he ran over two Commanders defenders, including all-pro linebacker Frankie Louvu. I feel like that part is not getting talked about enough. It's not like, the first one, Trey Amos, he's like a small, kind of tiny rookie corner. Doesn't surprise me at all that Cam Scadaboo ran him over. But the fact that he then has bounced completely off Frankie Louvu, an all-pro linebacker last year, that is what made me the most impressed with him. He got awarded, I'm sure you saw this, the Good Morning Football Angry Runs award for running those two guys over on that play. Basically, I'm just trying to say he showed me enough where if the Giants get close to the goal line this Sunday, I'm good with putting him out there. I know it didn't work. It didn't work on this past weekend. They did try.
The defenders were there before he got the ball.
100%. That's what I just wanted to say. It wasn't his fault. Literally,
No, not
the
at
defenders
all.
were in his face as soon as he touched the ball. But I made that comment last week. He showed me enough. I hope we see him play more this coming week. I have a feeling we will. Obviously, some of it will depend on game script, but I hope he gets an expanded opportunity. And I would like to see him get a goal line carry.
Young Skywalker, I am glad you have come around, young Skywalker. Yes.
It was the pass protection that just worried me a little bit. But that goes for all rookie running backs. It wasn't him in particular. It was any rookie running back.
Not a problem.
But he showed very quickly that that's not something you got to worry about with him.
All right. Final thought before we go, and I do want to squeak this in because it's the X factor. Kevontae Turpin averaged over 30 yards a kick return last year. He was all NFL. He is like a mosquito. The man is impossible to catch when he gets that football. He is so quick. He is so fast. He is a blur. He is pesky. That guy on special teams can tilt the field in a heartbeat. And oh, by the way, yeah, he can also score on a return. So no matter what you do on offense and defense, Giants, don't let Kevontae Turpin wind up turning the game.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Dable spoke at length about the special teams unit for the Cowboys, and he was praising them, significantly because with these new kickoff rules, if you kick a touchback, the opposing team gets the ball on the 35-yard line. Well, you can't really do that with the Cowboys because with Brandon Aubrey as the kicker, one first down, and all of a sudden they're in field goal range.
Oh, I know.
So you need to kick the ball to them, and then that's when Kevontae Turpin comes into play. Brian Dable made it very, very clear that he agrees with exactly what you just said. Kevontae Turpin is one of the biggest, I think, impact players, or could be one of the biggest impact players for the Cowboys this weekend, all season. I agree with you. I don't know exactly the best way to go about trying to contain him because once he has the ball in his hands on those kickoff returns, you're like, who the heck knows what's going to happen? Like, he is so quick and slippery that you could prepare all week for it. He makes one move and all of a sudden he's gone for a 95-yard touchdown. So they're going to have to, again, I don't even know exactly what the best way to try to remedy his abilities in the kickoff game is, but I don't know, maybe try to kick the ball as far away from him as possible. Maybe. That's the best I can come up with.
That'll do it for this edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live. We are here every single weekday live from 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time for 1 hour to talk Giants football. Don't forget, Sunday's kickoff is in Dallas, a 1 o'clock kick. In fact, the first time the Giants have kicked it off at 1 o'clock in Dallas since 2005.
First time at AT&T Stadium.
That's unbelievable. But somehow, some way, that's what the schedule makers decided to do. You can catch the pregame on WFAN at 11 a.m. Kickoff is at 1. Postgame also on WFAN as well as MSG Networks. And again, go over to Giants.com. You can get all the details about all the different ways that we will cover the game, including photos and videos and stuff during the course of the action. It's all right here on your favorite place for New York Giants football, Giants.com. This has been Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants, coming to you from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. For Matt, I'm Paul. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.